based on the new book that you have now called Mind Shift.
Oh, we're going to talk about the book.
It doesn't take a genius to think like one. What is the mind shift that people in the world need to think about right now after isolation and after lots of transformations and loss and grief and all these things? What is the mind shift that we need? And what is kind of the main thesis behind the book that I want everyone to get?
Sure. There are 12 basic mind shifts in the book, but the overarching mind shift, which is what you're asking me, is that most of your limitations are actually internal.
Yeah.
Not external. And in fact, there's one page in the book, I think it's the first page. It's only one sentence. So the first page of the book is one sentence. It says, the intention of this book is to destroy your internal limitations. The book has one singular purpose, and that's to destroy your internal limitations.
Because there's certain external limitations that may be limiting you in some ways.
Of course.
But the internal...
they're the ones that matter.
They're the ones that matter.
Yeah. In fact, I was I had our friend's Joel's bachelor party, right? So he turns it into a mastermind where I end up teaching for 3 hours and then doing 2 hours of Q&A and then 2 hours of coaching. And one of the guys said, I'm working for this company and I just keep hitting this wall. And if I could just get past this wall, I could get this huge promotion and have this huge advancement. But I just can't break through this wall. Can you help me figure out how to break through this wall? And I said, okay, stop. I want you to imagine yourself right now on the other side of that wall. And just imagine your life, imagine your career. He goes, can you see it? He goes, I can. And I said, do you want that life? And he goes, no. And I said, you are the wall. And most of the time in life, we actually think we're hitting walls that are external, but the walls are actually internal. And Louis, I can look at my life. Most of the ceilings throughout my life were all mine. I took the plaster. I put the bricks up.
You put them up there, yeah.
And then I yelled at the world and yelled at God for limiting me. And I created my own limitations. And so what I wanted to do in the book is I wanted to make these small mental shifts that if a person makes, it will unlock their life at a ridiculous level. And the idea of the book, when you write a book, you don't really know when you start it, right? The idea kind of is there for a while, but I know exactly when this book started.
When?
October 26, 1990. That's a long time ago.
Wow.
33 years ago. On October 26, 1990, I was listening to sports radio driving through Dallas, Texas. And the day before, on October 25th, Buster Douglas defended his title against Evander Holyfield. 8 months earlier, on February 11th, in Tokyo, Japan, Buster Douglas knocked out Mike Tyson in the 10th round. He has 8 months to train to prepare to defend his title. He comes into the fight overweight, out of shape, unprepared.
Gets knocked out, doesn't he?
I think the third round, right?
Yeah.
He
looks
terrible.
Sloppy.
Yeah. So
He was living that champ life. He was he's from my hometown, so Columbus, Ohio.
Okay. Yeah. So sports radio, they're talking about Buster. And one guy said,
before the fight or after the fight?
No, after the fight.
Okay.
They're reflecting on this terrible defense, right?
It was really bad.
Yeah. And they said, why do you think Buster didn't even try? Which is a really important question. And then the other guy said this, which was to my own embarrassment. He goes, Buster Douglas is like a great guy. He's even like a Christian. I thought, great. He's deeply religious. And then the third guy said, some people are simply structured for failure. And when I heard that statement, it shook me.
Wow.
And in that moment, it shifted from Buster Douglas to me. And I went, wait a minute. Am I structured for failure? Do I have the internal structures for failure or the internal structures for success?
Yeah.
Or do I have a combination of those? And my internal structures for failure are warring against my internal structures for success. And that's why sometimes I'm succeeding and then I'm tripping over myself and failing. And am I creating pathways to success and then creating all the roadblocks for failure at the same time? And then what hit me with Buster Douglas is that he actually knew how to handle failure. He had lost, I think, 5 fights before that.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't failure that he didn't know how to handle. It was success he didn't know how to handle.
Right.
And so On that day, October 26, 1990, is when I began writing this book, Mind Shift, because that's when I began objectively studying internal structures of failure and asking the question, what are the internal structures of failure and success? And I'm like you. I'm a very optimistic person.
Yeah.
I'm incredibly hopeful. So the moment I see negative, I see the positive right away. So I'm going, oh, wow, I'm going to study these negative structures for failure, but I'm going to actually begin to construct all the positive structures for success. And I was working with the urban poor at the time. I was working in the inner city with a lot of gangs, with a lot of drug runners and people trapped in poverty. And I knew that if I could change their internal mental structures, I could actually prepare them for a life of success. And I realized that poverty creates self-limiting structures. And one of the things you have to do for a person is not just give them opportunity. You actually have to change their internal mental structures so they can see those opportunities and take advantage of them.
And you can't just give them what looks like success without changing those structures internally,
It
too.
all begins internally before it begins to be actualized externally. And so I wrote Mind Shift because I thought, wow, if I had just known these things in my 20s or known them in my 30s or even my 40s, if I had had clarity about them, I would have accelerated my success at a faster level, and I would increase my influence dramatically.
So what is the main thing that you can see in someone that says they are structurally prepared to welcome success in their life and handle it and potentially stay successful versus someone that is not prepared? They're wired for failure or structured for failure, and when success comes, it's all downhill after that. What's the difference between those
I'd
two?
say if I had to pick one word, because remember, I have 12 chapters,
Yes.
right? One word, it's ownership. One of the chapters of the book is called You Are Your Own Ceiling. And when you take ownership over your life, and I had some pushback on this the other day because I spoke about this at the Global Leadership Summit, about that our limitations are self-imposed. You can have trauma in your life. You can have circumstances and situations that are dramatic, but the structures that are internal are self-created. They're your response to those circumstances, to those traumas, to those situations. And somebody said, that's so unfair. You know, you're putting all the blame on the person. I go, no, I'm not. I'm giving all the ownership. Because if the limitations are external, you're powerless.
You're relying on someone else to give you
Someone's
power.
got to fix it.
Yeah.
But if the limitations are internal, you're powerful. So to me, no, this is the most optimistic, positive, empowering mindset framework. If those limitations are within me, and I've created them out of response to the world around me, then I can change them, and I can redirect them and realign them. And so maybe I became bitter. Maybe I'm a hurt person who hurt people. And I thought hurting people was the only way to survive a world that constantly hurts me. But that's the mindset I created. But now I realize, oh, this is a self-limiting mindset. If I'm always going to hurt people, I will never be loved. If I'm always going to hurt people, I'll never know closeness. I'll never know intimacy. I'll never have friendships. I'm going to live my life alone. See, the moment you realize, oh, this self-limiting mental structure of hurting people because I've been hurt is actually costing me everything I want in life. And then you go, okay, it doesn't feel right, but I'm going to forgive. It just feels so counterintuitive. But I'm going to let go. I'm going to forgive people. And the moment you forgive and you begin to open yourself up to people and begin to trust people, your life changes instantly. It's radicalized. And you know this as an athlete. Like one of the chapters talks about talent and how what I find is people who are highly talented when they're young actually struggle with having structures for sustained success.
Really?
They do. Because their talent is usually matched with external structures for success. So if you're a super athlete, they put you on a team, and then they give you a coach, and they create discipline in your life, and they manage that talent.
It's not self-discipline is what you're saying.
No, it's an external structure. And that's why about 75% of all pro football players, 5 years after done with their career are bankrupt.
Mm-hmm.
It's why about, at least half to 3/4 of them are divorced, drug addicted, dead, and or divorced within 2 to 3 years after their career's over, because their talent did not require them to create internal structures.
Interesting.
Because they're external structures. See, I had the great gift of not having talent. and when you have low talent, you have to create high internal structures. Because if you're going to succeed, if I'm going to match against someone who has high talent, I have to have a harder work ethic.
It's extreme discipline.
I have to be more disciplined. I have to have more determination. I have to
be organized. Yeah.
A different internal structure, because I'm at a liability. And so I have people in my life who were super talents when they're young. I grew up with them, and I was considered nominally talented.
Yes.
Average, right? And then the moment we were out of high school, and the moment we're out of college, and the moment we're in the real world, they actually lost momentum and I accelerated. In fact, they couldn't figure out how suddenly, now that we're in our 20s, I'd looked like a super talent, and they looked like they lacked talent. And the difference was that talent is a hallucinogen. It's an illusion that allows you to believe you do not need discipline and hard work to succeed in life.
Right.
But greatness is not the outcome of talent. Greatness is the outcome of discipline. And it's taking that talent and harnessing it to its optimal capacity.
Yeah, I don't know if you've watched the sports documentaries Untold. I don't know if you've seen these.
I haven't seen that one.
It's on it's not ESPN, it's on Netflix, but it's a series of sports documentaries. And there was one of Johnny Manziel that just came out.
Oh, I just started watching that one.
That one,
okay.
yes. So that's on Netflix, of that series, right? And here's the guy who was the most talented, the first Heisman Trophy winner as a freshman in college, beating Alabama in Alabama. Talented, right? An incredibly talented guy. The next year plays, gets drafted in the first round, goes to unfortunately, my team, the Browns. And
is that really a team?
Hey, you're a real fan when you support a team that never wins. It's like for your whole life.
Me with the Clippers over the years.
Exactly. And he talks about, I don't know if you finished it, but at the end he was like, they asked him, how much film did you watch in NFL, your whole time in the NFL? And he says 0. He didn't show up for film. He wasn't disciplined. He was partying on the weekends, and he thought his talent would allow him to deliver at the next level. And talent alone didn't work for him, and he had it at an early age. And so that's definitely something that, I felt like I didn't have the talent, but I had the work ethic, the discipline, the willingness to remove distractions from my life, all these different things to focus, to show up and make the most of my talent as well. So,
yeah, I think there's the curse of talent, and especially when you are a prodigy at a young age.
Yeah. Or you win Olympic gold at 16, and you're like, now what?
And fortunately, most of us, we have some degree of talent, but not so much that we begin to live in this mythology that we don't have to work hard, but it's such a small little shift when you think about, you go, oh, okay, I can accomplish almost anything if I'm willing to pay the price to develop the disciplines, to develop the skills to accomplish this. And so I actually think there's no limit, which is why for me, I've been able to, went to film and, did fashion and write books and speak and all these different things, because I always know, hey, I'm starting the same way no matter what I do, 0 talent, a lot of determination, high learning mode. And I remember years and years ago, I said, look, eventually determination gets mistaken for talent and hard work gets mistaken for genius, which is why the subtitle of the book, it doesn't take a genius to, to think like one. Because, really, what's the point of having a high IQ if you don't make good choices every day of your life? And to me, the real genius is making the choices that give you the life that you've longed for.
Yes.
The optimal expression of who you are as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
And this is embarrassing, but they just downloaded TikTok on my phone.
Yeah.
Don't
get hooked on it.
And so I started watching TikTok, and all of a sudden I started getting a little addicted, and it started coming up on all these musicians that were auditioning for X Factor or some show. I have no idea.
America's Got Talent or something.
Yeah. And every time some unknown person sang, I would start crying. And what's wrong with me? Like, this is like a product of age now, you know? And I realized what my passion is helping people discover their latent potential. Like, one of the things I think is tragic is when people never live or have their genius or greatness identified and appreciated in life. And so every time I see a small glimpse of that, I actually get really moved. And I realized that a part of my huge drive in life is to help people find these small, granular shifts that unlock their own genius and their greatness and their potential and their capacity. And I want people to be surprised. I want people to go, I never knew I was capable of this. Because I look back on my life now, Lewis, and I go, I just can't believe I get to live this life.
Yeah.
I can't believe this happened to me. I can't believe that I've been able to accomplish these things. I can't believe that, I write books and do all this stuff, and can't believe I get to have a conversation with you. Like, it's all like a dream for me. It's all a miracle.
Life is fun.
And it's so good. And I want that for everyone.
Yes.
At the level at which they were designed to live it, And because I just think there's people right now that are living a life that's imposed on them. And there's a little voice inside of them just saying, you're created for a different life, but they haven't found the courage or maybe the encouragement, to step into that. And for me, it's like if I can help one person just find the courage or the encouragement to go, I'm going to begin to live this new life, this life that I feel like I was created to live. Who cares if you fail? It's so much more fun failing in a life you long for than a life you didn't want anyway.
100%.
Yeah.
I want to make sure everyone gets this book, Mind Shift. It doesn't take a genius to think like one. And if you feel like you're not built for success at the levels you want, if you don't feel like you have the internal systems to sustain accomplishments and the success that you want in your life, this will support you shifting your mind in a way to set yourself up for success in a bigger way. So make sure you guys take a look at this. If you're afraid of failure, if that's one of the things that holds you back from your potential, putting your potential out there, get this book to support you in overcoming that fear and insecurity so you can build the internal systems stronger for the success you want in your life. Excited about this. I want people to go get a copy or two. They can go to irwinmcmanus.com for all your information.